Hey folks, walk with me. Well, this video, I want to talk a bit about low self-worth and insecurity as a person and a couple of ways in which that manifests quite strongly and destructively. And I'm talking about this from the perspective of somebody who is trying to no longer be ashamed to admit that I struggle with a very low sense of self-worth and with a lot of insecurities that come with that and that are maybe, aside from that or just in addition to that. Having the low self-worth, hopefully that's relatively self-explanatory, but in case it's not, it's just basically this sense of not having intrinsic value as a person. That your sense of being and your sense of worthiness of people's respect, of the attention of others, of the benefit of the doubt, of your ability to have success or be happy, that those things aren't just a byproduct of your existence, that they just intrinsically come with it. Rather, they have to be earned. They have to be brought about by some means other than the simple idea that you have some value just as you are, or just because you are. It's probably more accurate. Now, one way that this takes shape with me, and you may notice this in yourself if you are sort of dealing with the same stuff, or this might be helpful if you have somebody in your life who maybe exhibits some of these traits and you're sort of trying to understand them as to not misunderstand them. So one of those things is perfectionism. So perfectionism takes shape strongly in me. Obviously, I notice it a lot in my work, the work that pays the bills, which is not YouTube, at least for the foreseeable future, and potentially ever. But perfectionism. So being low self-worth, being relatively insecure, the idea that you can overcome an obstacle like making an error, or that you can not just be completely defeated and deflated and feel as though everything has been confirmed, that you are incapable and unworthy of having some sort of status at work or having some responsibilities at work. That stuff is just completely amplified, is completely fortified if you aren't perfect, right? With imperfection comes the necessity of being secure in your ability to fix it, to overcome it, to in some way make amends for an error, right? I'm speaking of it as though it's like a death sentence, right? But that's what it can feel like to the low self-worth, low self-esteem person, is that making an error, not being perfect, not being able to be just 100% relied upon 100% of the time, that your abilities and your the nature of your relationship with others is completely dissolved and in the dust because of an error, right? And it's partly because you feel as though you are incapable of fulfilling that role to begin with. Certainly that you're incapable of overcoming any setbacks, right? Like an error or a misstep. And then, that you are just kind of confirming for them everything that you think about yourself, insofar as you're not having the wherewithal to make it work. So perfectionism can come about in many different ways and for many different reasons, I'm sure. But I've come to notice it quite strongly in myself, and realizing that it's tied to actually being very insecure and having very low self-worth. And I then generate some sense of worthiness from this idea that you can always count on me, right? I won't make any mistakes. I'll get it all right all the time. And it sucks. It's not a great way to live, to be honest. It's quite maddening. And the other thing is that I've noticed, which this can be quite destructive to relationships of all sorts, but this can be work, personal, across the board, acquaintances even. But because there's this sense of low self-worth or no self-worth, you feel as though you can't ask for anything, that you can't, say, impose boundaries, that you can't let your desires and your wishes be known. Sorry if I'm shouting, there's very loud vehicles behind me and I don't know how well this is picking up the audio. So, but this idea that you can let your wants and wishes be known, that you can tell somebody what you need, or what you want from them. To a low self-worth person, that feels like a major stretch, because the sense is like, who am I to request or demand anything from anyone? I'm lucky that anyone wants to give me the time of day, right? Or that anyone wants to give me any sense of belonging or sense of connection, right? And that you're just lucky to have any scraps that you can get. But the audacity to request something of another person is just completely devoid. And what ends up happening, this is the really destructive part, because you don't voice your needs and your wants and your feelings, you then start, or I then, I'm saying you as I, this is how it manifests with me. I then start expecting people to essentially read my mind, right? I end up in this place of like, if you can't anticipate the needs that I have, if you don't incessantly understand everything that's happening that I leave unspoken, right? All my thoughts and feelings and desires, then it's further confirmation of the distance and the separation between us, right? So I take something that's just impossible, the impossibility of somebody being able to read my mind, to know my feelings, my desires, my expectations, and then act upon that from the ESP perspective. And when they can't, and of course they never can, then I take it as a sign of, oh, well, they don't care. They aren't paying attention. And it then sort of further loops into, further fortifies this concept of no self-worth, right? That no one wants to be there with you, that no one wants to, just kind of be connected with you in a meaningful way. But you see how it's twisted so strongly. It's such a perverted way, such a perversion of what's actually happening, or being able to understand that because I feel that I can't ask for something, then destroying relationships or perspectives because my needs and wants and feelings aren't being acknowledged or met. Well, of course they're not. Nobody knows about them. And I don't let them be known because of the low self-worth. I feel unworthy of making those requests. So that's all for this one. But if you walked with me, we walked about 11 minutes by this point, so good job. Probably got in over half a mile or so. And yeah, hopefully this was informative, helpful, I don't know. Whether it's for you or for somebody you know. But in any case, thanks for walking or watching me walk. And I'll see you in the next video.